Let's talk about alcohol and drinking problems that we have here in South Africa. We know how bad it was and what the focus was during the various stages of lockdown and alcohol abuse in our country. Well, the SA Alcohol Policy Alliance wants liquor policy to be handled centrally by national government. So currently, to bring you up to speed, provinces have their own separate policies and their own legislations. It says provinces should be responsible for the implementation, though, of what national government is doing. Let's bring into the conversation the organisation's Maurice Smithers back with us on ENCA. Maurice, good to have you back on ENCA. Good morning to you. Let's just set the picture quickly. Where is this coming from? Why is this call being made for national to handle the policies of this?
Well, it comes from the fact that good morning, sorry, I apologize, I should have greeted you first and the viewers. It comes from the fact that we have a situation at the moment in the country where alcohol policy and alcohol legislation is being quite poorly managed, and there's a great deal of confusion between who is accountable for what, between national, provincial and local included. As well as between structures like the liquor boards and the SAPS. And so we believe that the history of the last couple of years has shown that we have a major crisis around alcohol in the country, and it actually needs to be managed at a central level in order to reduce alcohol harm as much as possible. And in fact, that view was supported by Minister Becky Taylor when he went to Inyobeni Tavern. You recall in June when 21 children died at a tavern in the Eastern Cape. When he went to the tavern, and he himself said, we need national legislation to actually ensure that the policies and our ways of managing alcohol in the country are centralized and are common throughout the country.
This all comes off the back of a workshop held by DG Murray Trust, DGMT, where they actually broke down, Murray, the numbers as far as percentages. And according to a policy document, 61% of homicides in the Western Cape associated with alcohol. 40% of men admitted to raping a woman had said that it was under the influence of alcohol as well. So social ills has to play a big part in how this is being managed as well. Why would national government do this differently and perhaps more effectively than at the provincial level? What do you imagine would actually change?
Well, the one thing that would happen is that you would have a policy and an approach to alcohol which is governed by which is common throughout the country. So you're not going to actually have different laws applying in different countries. In different provinces, should I say. You're also going to have clarity about the role of municipalities. The Constitution is a little bit confusing, in fact, as to who is responsible for what. Something that was actually shown in 1999, 2000, when the original Liquor Act of 2003 was originally being drafted. And there was a question about the constitutionality of that act, because it was said that national was encroaching on the powers of provinces. So it means that if you want to, for example, have a policy that says liquor outlets should close at a certain time, or that there should be the location of alcohol outlets should be in a certain place, and a current example is the fact that some provinces allow petrol stations to have licenses, liquor licenses, and others don't. All of these things, if they were done nationally, it would mean that there would be commonality, and it would mean that the country as a whole could deal with alcohol challenges, the social harms of alcohol. I mean, advertising is a good example. You can't really ban or really limit alcohol advertising at a provincial level, because most radio stations, television stations, and so on have national platforms, national footprints, and provinces actually have no control over advertising. So therefore, that's just another example of how having a national strategy would work. And
let's talk about timelines for a second, Maurice, as well. Let's just talk about timelines that we need to try and keep in mind as well. What's the reality behind first of all, having a discussion with relevant authorities, in this case, national government, and then having something like this implemented? What's your expected timeline, briefly, before I say goodbye?
Look, things are not going to be quick. Even if legislation were to be passed tomorrow, and even if the Liquor Amendment Bill, which has been on ice since 2017, even if that were to be passed today, the actual change in society and the way in which society manages alcohol is not going to happen overnight. There are also changes that might have to happen over time. For example, if you wanted to reduce the density of alcohol outlets, you wouldn't suddenly go and shut down a whole bunch of outlets to get to the right density. What you would have to do is have a strategy saying people have got 5 years to close down or 5 years to change their businesses to something else. And then you'd have to have different arms of government helping to manage that transition. We don't want the introduction of new legislation to cause undue harm, particularly to small businesses. So you have to then take responsibility for ensuring that the new policy can be implemented and it has as little impact as possible on the lives of ordinary people, particularly traders. But at the same time, you are looking to the long term, to a society which in 5, 10, 15 years actually is alcohol safer for those people who drink, but also for the people around them. Because that's where the biggest challenge is in the country at the moment. It's not the danger to people who drink, it's to all of the people around them.
That's creating an impact while also not impacting the economy of the alcohol business as well, doing it safely for everybody. Maurice, I appreciate your time. Maurice Smithers, SA Alcohol Policy Alliance, wanting government to handle at a national level policy around alcohol in our country.